Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going deep on something I think you'll find pretty fascinating. AI and marketing education.
Mm,
Specifically, how it's changing the game in sales training.
yeah.
You sent me some research from Central Washington University,
hmm
and it actually ties in really well with this position paper.
Okay.
Transforming marketing education with AI. Practical insights and ethical implication.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From the Marketing Educators Association. This is actually pretty recent, April 2025.
Yeah.
So it's hot off the presses.
Fresh.
And it's got some really interesting stuff in here. One of the things that caught my eye right off the bat was this anecdote about a marketing professor, Dr. Mira Sloop.
Okay.
And she was consulting for a startup.
Interesting.
It seems like they had this great product, but sales were just kind of flatlining.
Right.
So what did she do?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. She decided to bring in AI to kind of analyze their customer data.
Huh.
And from that, she was able to create these like super personalized sales scripts. So instead of using just a, generic pitch, each script was really tailored to that specific customer's needs and pain points.
Gotcha. So it was really about figuring out exactly what that customer was struggling with.
Yeah, exactly.
And then tailoring the message to say, hey, we can solve this specific problem for you.
Exactly. And you know what? The results were pretty impressive. They saw a 30% boost in sales in just like a few weeks.
Wow. So she basically took AI, used it to analyze customer data,
Yeah.
crafted hyper-personalized sales pitches based on that data, and then boom, 30% increase in sales.
Exactly.
That's incredible. I can see why she then said, okay, I need to bring this into the classroom.
Absolutely. And that's a big part of what this paper really argues. Like they're saying, look, ignoring AI in marketing education, you just can't do it anymore.
Right. It's not even an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about preparing these students, right, for a future where working alongside AI is going to be as normal as, using a computer.
Right. And I think the interesting thing is the paper also points to the fact that businesses are already struggling to find people with the right AI skills. So this isn't some futuristic thing.
Yeah.
This is happening now.
It's very real. It's a critical point, actually. Companies right now, they're looking for people with these skills,
Yeah.
and they're having a hard time finding them. So students who graduate with this kind of knowledge, they're going to have a huge advantage.
It's like supply and demand, right?
Exactly. There's a huge demand and not enough supply. And we're not just talking about like theoretical knowledge here. It's practical, hands-on. Can you actually use these tools to get stuff done?
Right. So let's dive into some of those practical applications. What are some ways that educators are actually using AI in sales training?
Well, we talked about those personalized sales scripts that Dr. Sloop created.
Yeah.
So the paper suggests using AI to create those kinds of scripts and then having students practice with them in these like really realistic simulations.
Oh, interesting.
Imagine like a virtual sales coach that's available 24/7, providing feedback, helping them refine their approach.
Oh, that's cool. And I bet the AI could probably even tailor its feedback based on the student's performance or, how they learn best.
You got it. And then, the paper also goes into how AI can analyze customer data, but not just for personalized scripts, but to predict future needs, tailor whole marketing strategies. It goes way beyond traditional market research.
So it's like you can have an AI that will basically tell you what your customers will want before they even know they want it.
Well, maybe not magic, but it is pretty close.
It's getting there.
It can identify patterns and trends that we as humans, we might just completely miss. And that gives businesses a huge advantage, right? Anticipating market shifts, staying ahead of the curve.
So you're using this AI almost as like a predictive tool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just the beginning.
That's amazing. But, I'm also kind of curious about the other side of the coin here. We've talked about all the amazing things that AI can do, but what about the ethical considerations
Yeah.
that come with using AI in this way? Because I know the paper touches on that.
Yeah.
But I'd really love to dive a little deeper. What are some of the key concerns that educators and students really need to be aware of?
You're right. That's a great question. And those ethical considerations, really important. We'll dive into those right after a quick break.
Right.
Yeah, it's really important to remember AI is a powerful tool. And like any tool, it can be used, for good or for not so good.
Right.
One of the key concerns that the paper really highlights is this potential for bias in AI systems.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If the data that's used to train the AI is biased, then the AI's outputs are going to be biased.
Exactly.
It's like, teaching a kid bad manners. Chances are they're probably going to grow up to be a rude adult.
Exactly. And this bias, can have real-world consequences, especially in marketing. Imagine an AI system that's used for, targeted advertising, but it's been trained on data that reflects existing gender or racial biases.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right.
That could be really problematic.
Yeah, so certain groups could end up being unfairly excluded from seeing certain ads, or they might be shown ads that perpetuate harmful stereotypes.
Right. Or even, being steered towards certain products or services that maybe are in their best interest.
Yeah, absolutely. So the paper stresses the importance of using diverse and representative data sets when you're training these AI systems, and really being mindful of those potential biases that can creep in.
Yeah, so it's not just about teaching students how to use the AI tools. It's also about how to use them ethically and responsibly.
Exactly. And that involves teaching them to think critically about the data that's being used,
Right.
to question the assumptions that might be baked into these algorithms, and to really consider, the potential impact of their actions.
So it sounds like it's a whole new set of skills that educators need to be incorporating into their curriculum.
It is. It's not just about the technical skills anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
also about ethical awareness, critical thinking skills. And the paper actually argues that these human skills are going to be even more important in an AI-driven world.
That's interesting. I feel like there's this perception out there that AI is going to replace human jobs, but maybe it's more about AI augmenting human capabilities.
I think that's a much more accurate way to look at it. AI can automate certain tasks, but it can't replace human creativity or empathy or critical thinking. In fact, those skills will become even more valuable as AI becomes, more integrated into our work.
And that kind of brings me back to that exercise you mentioned earlier, the one where students use AI to create and adjust sales scripts for different audiences.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting example.
That's a great example of how AI can be used to enhance, not replace, human skills.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how it really forces students to think about the nuances of language and how to tailor their message to, different demographics.
It's almost like learning to speak multiple dialects.
It is. And AI can provide, valuable feedback and insights to help those students refine their approach. But ultimately, it's still the human student who's making those creative decisions, who's crafting the message.
So it's a partnership.
It is.
Between the human and the machine, each one bringing their own strengths to the table.
Exactly.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I'm also kind of curious about the practical side of things.
Yeah.
I imagine integrating AI into the classroom, it can be pretty challenging.
Yeah.
What are some of the hurdles that educators are facing?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is just access to the technology itself. These AI tools can be expensive.
Right.
They often require specialized hardware and software.
And, not every school has the budget for that.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about schools that are already kind of struggling with limited resources.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of training.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Educators need to be trained on how to use these tools effectively.
Right.
And how to integrate them into their curriculum in a way that actually makes sense.
Yeah, and that's a lot to ask of educators who are already, stretched pretty thin.
It is, and it's a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have this challenge of keeping up with the rapid pace of innovation in the AI field.
Oh, absolutely. It's moving so fast.
What's cutting edge today might be completely obsolete tomorrow.
Right. So how do you even begin to develop a curriculum that stays relevant when the technology is changing that quickly?
It can feel like you're constantly playing catch up. But the paper does a good job of outlining some core principles and best practices that I think can really help guide educators, even as the technology continues to evolve.
So even though the specific tools and techniques might change, the underlying principles of AI-powered marketing education are relatively stable.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's like learning to drive a car. The basic principles of steering, braking, and accelerating, those are the same whether you're driving a vintage Model T or a Tesla.
I like that. That's a great analogy. And it does make me feel a little bit more optimistic about the future of AI in education.
Yeah.
So with all that said, where does this leave us? What's the key takeaway for someone like me who's interested in AI but doesn't necessarily want to, become a data scientist?
That's a great question. And I think the key takeaway here is that AI literacy is becoming increasingly important,
Yeah.
regardless of your specific career path.
So even if I'm not going to be the one building the AI algorithms myself, I still need to have a basic understanding of how they work and their limitations and how to use them ethically.
Absolutely. Think of it like knowing how to use a search engine.
Okay.
You don't need to understand the complex algorithms behind Google to use it effectively.
Right.
But you do need to know how to, craft a good search query.
Right.
How to evaluate the results that you get, how to be aware of potential biases.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. So it's not about, becoming an AI expert. It's about developing this basic understanding of how AI works and how it's impacting the world around us.
Exactly. And this paper provides a really great framework for thinking about those things, specifically within the context of marketing education.
Yeah.
It highlights the skills and knowledge that students need to thrive in this new landscape. Things like data analysis, critical thinking, the ability to identify potential biases.
And that sounds like a pretty significant shift in how we approach marketing education.
It is. It's pretty exciting to see how educators are rising to the challenge and finding really creative ways to integrate this technology into their curriculum.
One of the things that really struck me about this paper is how it balances the excitement of AI's potential with a healthy dose of caution about its limitations and potential pitfalls.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial balance to strike. It's something that we all need to be mindful of as AI becomes, more integrated into our lives. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a replacement for human intelligence.
Right.
But it is a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
That when used responsibly can really help us solve complex problems and create a better future.
Well, you've definitely given me a lot to think about. This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. I feel like I have a much better grasp on how AI is transforming marketing education and what it means for the future of the industry.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation. AI is constantly evolving, and it's up to all of us to stay informed,
Right.
to engage in these thoughtful discussions and shape the future of AI in a way that benefits everyone.
That's a great point. We all have a role to play in ensuring that AI is used ethically and responsibly. Thanks for guiding us through this complex topic. I know our listener will appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to you, our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative. And as always, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas on your own. Until next time, keep diving. So even if I'm not going to be the one, building these AI algorithms, I still need to have like a basic understanding of how they work and their limitations and how to use them ethically.
Absolutely. Think of it like knowing how to use a search engine.
Okay.
You don't have to understand all the complex algorithms behind Google to use it effectively.
Right.
But you need to know how to, craft a good search query, evaluate the results that you get.
Right.
Be aware of potential biases.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. So it's not about becoming an AI expert. It's about developing this basic understanding of how AI works and how it's impacting the world around us.
Exactly. And, this paper provides a really great framework for thinking about those things, specifically in the context of marketing education. It highlights the skills and knowledge that students need to thrive in this new landscape.
Yeah.
Things like data analysis, critical thinking, the ability to identify potential biases.
And that sounds like a pretty significant shift in how we approach marketing education.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting to see how educators are kind of rising to the challenge and finding really creative ways to integrate this technology into the classroom.
One of the things that really struck me about this paper is how it balances that excitement of AI's potential with a healthy dose of caution about its limitations and potential pitfalls.
Yeah. I think that's a crucial balance to strike and something that we all need to be mindful of as AI becomes, more and more integrated into our lives. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a replacement for human intelligence.
Right.
But it is a powerful tool that when used responsibly can really help us solve complex problems and create a better future.
Well, you've definitely given me a lot to think about. This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. I feel like I have a much better grasp on how AI is transforming marketing education and what it means for the for the future of the industry. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And remember, this is, just the beginning of the conversation. AI is constantly evolving, and it's really up to all of us to stay informed, to engage in these thoughtful discussions and shape the future of AI in a way that benefits everyone.
That's a great point. We all have a role to play in ensuring that AI is used ethically and responsibly. Thanks for guiding us through this complex topic. I know our listener will appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to you, our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative, and as always, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas on your own. Until next time, keep diving.